Hello, I'm on the floor because I cannot be bothered to set up my tripod. So about a week and a bit ago, I posted a tweet of my big TBR pile, and I said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I got through my TBR pile whilst in this, isolation crap that we're all in. I've had my TBR pile for years, as obviously most people have. It's been getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and obviously now is as good a time as any to try and get through it. So I thought I might document it a little bit. I've already made some progress. This little pile to the left here that I'm just pointing at, like this pile. Those are books that I've read off my TBR that I need to review. And then up here, doesn't want to zoom. There we go. Is my beautiful TBR pile by Coraline over there. So from about here, it doesn't look like that many books. It's kind of, a hefty pile, but then you move around the side and oh no, it's 3 piles. And there's quite a lot down here. So yeah, I'm a little bit nervous because I know that all of the books in this first pile here are ones that I've bought fairly recently, so I'm probably in the mood to read them. Whereas this back pile, I think, are books dating back years that I may have lost interest in, so we'll see. Hello, it's me, I'm closer now. And then this little pile over here, there, we're both pointing in the same direction. Real me and mirror me. There we go. This little pile is basically the dent I've made in my TBR over the past week and a half since I posted my tweet. And I think I've read 6 books and listened to 1 audiobook. So that's not too bad. I'm doing alright. So as we go, I want to talk a little bit about the books, but obviously I'm not going to do like a full review of each book on my TBR because that would be insane and we would be here for literal days and years and months and weeks and days. So I'm just gonna maybe talk about like the highlights, the lowlights. We'll see. We'll just see how it goes. This is very casual, very informal. So my personal highlight so far, I think, has definitely been The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, a book which has been hyped up so much that I don't really need to say anything else about it. It's very good, very compelling, very well written. I read it very quickly. I'm very excited to crack on with my TBR and see what else is in there, because honestly, I've kind of forgotten about a lot of the books that are in there. Hello, I hit a bit of a wall in this TBR video. For the last week and a bit, I think the last 10 days, I've not read anything at all because I stupidly left my uni work to the very last minute, even in the middle of a quarantine when I have literally nothing else to do. I still didn't do my work, so that's fun. So for the last week I've been staying up till like 4 or 5 a.m. to complete everything, so reading has not been happening. But now that my deadline has passed and the work has been handed in, I can get back to my reading. And I had started before my week of work, I'd started reading, oh my god, Scythe, sorry, the cinematography is just not great. This is why I did directing. Cool. I don't know how to hold a camera. So I'd started reading Scythe, and now that my deadline has passed, I can get back to it and hopefully make some more progress, because my pile is literally looking exactly the same as it was like 10 days ago when I started filming. So fun. Boo. It's currently 5 a.m, like 5:30 maybe, and I haven't slept yet because quarantine is really fudging. Let's use the word fudging because I'm really fudging with my sleeping schedule, like a lot. And after the last wall that I hit in this TBR, I then ran headfirst into another wall because I decided to binge 4 seasons of The OC, which I'd never seen before, but I wanted to watch it. 4 seasons of The OC in about a week and a half, and I didn't really read anything, and I've been on the same book for what feels like ages, and I think because it's non-fiction, so it's just taken me a little bit longer to get into maybe. And also even then, I don't think it's the best example of non-fiction. I'm enjoying it and it's interesting, but it's just not as compelling as it could be given the subject matter, because it's a true crime novel. It's called When the Dogs Don't Bark by Angela Gallup, and it's about her career in forensic science. So you'd think it would be quite a compelling, absorbing read, but it's not academic in a way. I mean, it's quite easy to understand, but also it's quite dry. So I don't know, that's all. That and the OC is really been contributing to my slump, and also my sleeping schedule is just, I don't even know what's going on. So we're not at the greatest stage. And then obviously, like, I don't know if I should even still be doing this, because technically, like, is lockdown over? I don't know. The UK is being a dumb bitch and is like easing stuff when we still have like the highest death rates in Europe. So I don't really know. But my dad's vulnerable. He's in the vulnerable person category. So even if stuff starts to ease, I'm probably still going to be pretty much locked down for, the next few weeks at least. So we're going to continue with this and just see how far we get. Whatever. Good God, this video is failing so far, like, on all fronts. So it's 5:56, same day as the previous clip, and obviously it doesn't look like I'm going to be getting sleep anytime soon, so I might as well read and just try and blitz some more books on my TBR, because I have been doing shit so far. So here we go.
You are like gold dust over me, just like an angel setting me free. Where are you now? Do you feel safe? I don't need an answer, just need some space. Darken your front door. That is not what I came here for. Do you still carry all that weight? Don't need an answer, just need a debate. Don't stop before it's over. Weight is off your shoulder. Everything we fear will go away. You said it's a promise. I said that I doubt that. I'm your only reason to stay.
It's been a while. A lot has happened in the last couple of weeks. It's the beginning of June, and obviously the whole horrific situation of George Floyd being murdered has obviously impacted everyone around the world, and I've been staying engaged and trying to use my voice as much as possible. I supported Black Lives Matter in my last YouTube video, and I lost a bunch of subscribers, so that's fun. I thought BookTube was a lot more welcoming and a lot more, I don't know, just better than that, so that's a little bit disheartening. And there's a lot of people on my Facebook feed saying like all lives matter and all of that bullshit, and so it's just very exhausting to keep having to explain to people and keep having to, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if I'm exhausted, I can't imagine how Black people feel and have been feeling for decades, centuries. So it's just, yeah, there's a lot to learn, and I'm doing my best. I'm currently reading Why We're No Longer Talking to White People About Race, and yeah, I was in a bit of a reading slump, mainly because I was reading The Secret Garden, which, I don't know, maybe just it was a bit too long for me, and I mean, I enjoyed it, I liked the concept, but then with everything going on in the news, I didn't read a lot of it, and then it just became really bitty, and as you can see, a lot has also happened personally. I went to my uni house, and I moved everything out of it, so this is all the clothes, the books, the board games, the knickknacks, everything from my uni room, and is now just on the floor of my home, and I need to do a bunch of organising, and unfortunately that means my TBR is going to grow a bit because there are books I had at uni that I haven't read. So ultimately this video might result in me having made no progress, because if the amount of books I'm putting on my TBR is more than the amount I've read in this video, that would be a little bit embarrassing. It really would. So yeah, there's a little bit of an update. In terms of the books that I just read, probably the highlight would be maybe Rain and Delilah's Midnight Matinee. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was just really fun, and it's been a while since I've read like a fun, kind of wholesome YA book, and I read it at the right time. I think it's about two friends approaching college and they're growing apart, and while I've been to college, I've just graduated, I also relate to the themes of like growing apart and not knowing what your future holds and being very anxious, and you know, there's certain people in my life that I'm not going to see regularly anymore. So I think I just read it at the right time, and so if you're looking for something like that, I would recommend it. I did enjoy that quite a bit. So yeah, hopefully I'll be back with another update soon, and hopefully all of this will be off of the floor, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. Hello, the floor is clear if you ignore that and that over there, but I'm working on it, and this is now clear, which is very exciting, because if you watch my videos for a while, you will notice that here has just been filled with crap for like the past year, so it's very exciting. Hello, that was probably a bit too close. So, oh god, it's nearly the end of June. Lockdown is basically finished. I don't know what our government's doing, but they've reduced the 2-meter distancing to 1 meter plus, whatever that means. Non-essential businesses are open, hairdressers are opening soon, so pretty much this video is going to be ending soon, and I felt a little bit guilty because I didn't really deliver on the content front. Like, that's all that I managed to read in lockdown, which is not a lot. Like, there's not a lot of stuff there, especially when you look at, you know, the dent I made, which is pretty much non-existent. I'm currently reading Out of Love by Hazel Hayes, which is a book that I was really excited to read because I pledged for it on Unbound, because Hazel was crowdfunding for her book. So far I'm enjoying it, and I'm going to do a full review on that, so I'm probably not going to talk about it too much right now. But I thought, as a nice way to kind of end this video, I thought I might look at my TBR and just pick the 5 most anticipated books on there and just kind of blitz them in the next few days so that I can feel like I've delivered a bit more in this video. I'm gonna immediately grab Chain of Gold. Hello, that's very anticipated. You can go over here. Sorry, this camera work is just not nice. What else do I want to read? I'm gonna take Find Me by Andre Aciman, which, if you don't know, is the sequel to Call Me By Your Name, which, if you don't know, is one of my favourite books. So I'm very curious to see how that sequel pans out. I'm also gonna grab, not these. These can go. I've got too many things here with my little pumpkin friends. I'm gonna grab The Starless Sea, which is by the author of The Night Circus, which is a book that I love. So again, that one's very anticipated. Just realising there's just a random roll of toilet roll over there, which is kind of, you know, ruining the aesthetic, but it's fine, we'll roll with it. And then, let's just grab Ninth House. Again, very anticipated because I love Lee Bardugo's fantasy work. And then one more. Let's have a look. Right, let's just do it. Fuck it. Let's grab Priory, this big boy that is very hyped on BookTube. That always intimidates me. So these are my final picks. I'm going to try in the next few days, once I finished Out of Love, I'm going to blitz Chain of Gold, Find Me, The Starless Sea, Ninth House, and The Priory of the Orange Tree. And then this video will end with some spicy content. Well, not spicy content, but just some opinions on some of my most anticipated reads on my TBR. So with those books taken off, my TBR has a little bit more of a dent in, but unfortunately these books over here these 3 big piles over here on my desk are the ones that I brought back from uni. So I think the ones on this desk in these piles definitely outnumber the ones that I read in lockdown. So we're going to be finishing this TBR video not having made a dent at all, but having grown the TBR significantly. So I'd say that's a little bit of a failure, but I hope it was enjoyable anyway, and I hope that you enjoy, you know, whatever my hot takes or whatever is going to be on my most anticipated reads, and I'll check in with you in a bit. Hello, it's been long time no speak, long time no vlog. I got out my little tripod for this little chat because I thought you deserved some stability in this vlog. I was looking back at some of the other footage and it's like vertigo inducing, like Edgar Wright-esque whip pans everywhere, and I just feel like you deserve some stability. So hello. I probably just edited me binging the 5 most anticipated reads. I probably edited that into a little montage that took probably what, a minute and a bit. That is a lie. That is a straight up lie. Reading those 5 books did not take me like a week or a couple of days or whatever I said it was going to be. It took me like a month. Okay, so maybe we can do this in like a little ranking. So shall we go worst to best? Yeah, it's not going to be hard to pick out the worst one. The worst one was definitely, where's my finger? Find Me, this one by Andre Asselin, the sequel to Call Me By Your Name. That was one of my most anticipated books. It was not good, and I might do a whole video on why it's not good, but it just, yeah, unnecessary, uncomfortable, bizarre, I don't know, like just didn't give me what I wanted, and the writing was not like enough to keep me engaged. It's just there wasn't anything there that really blew me away like there was with the first book. Elio doesn't even come in until page 110, which is a bit ridiculous actually, and it's billed as a sequel. It's not really a sequel, it's more like a series of vignettes, and it's just not what I signed up for, you know. And there are some other kind of not great elements of the book, but I'm going to go into that in more detail I think and do a review. Yeah, just bizarre. So probably the next worst one, which it's not even a bad book, but I'd say maybe Ninth House up here by Lee Bardugo. This is the really awkward way of doing this. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to get me and the books in the frame and try and make it somewhat pretty, but I'm just like pointing with my big fingers and it's all blurry and gross. But yeah, so number 4 in the list is probably Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I really love the concept of this book. It's kind of dark academia meets paranormal. So we follow Alex Stern, who's this girl who's had a very tough life. So you find out, as the book goes on, you find out that as a kid she's been able to see ghosts, and she's been able to see ghosts throughout her whole life, and they're called greys in the book, but they're basically ghosts. But it's been very traumatic and very harrowing for her, and it kind of led her down a path. It led her down a path of drugs and violence, and she's had a very tough life. And I really like that idea, because often when we see kind of magic or paranormal in books, it's like, oh, wide-eyed wonderment and like how magical and how amazing and how cool to be part of this adventure. But I really like the idea that actually it can be very traumatizing at the same time. And so I really loved the concept. Just the pacing was a little bit off for me. I ended up giving it 3 stars, so still good, and I would definitely read the sequel that's coming out, but some of the pacing was a little bit off. And just the focus wasn't where I wanted it to be. I wanted more exploration into like the magic and the darkness of the setting at Yale, which is really interesting at the setting of Yale, because Alex's job, she gets brought to Yale to kind of keep the secret societies in check, and so for her first year she's training and learning about all these rituals and what all these societies do. I'd have liked to see a bit more of like the society alumni, a bit more detail into that, because they mention like all these powerful alumni from these like secret societies, and you never really get to see who they are. It's like very kind of vague. So I enjoyed it. I like the atmosphere of it. I just feel like the plot and the pacing just sometimes left a little to be desired. And there's one character that I really liked that is only in the book in flashbacks, and that was a bit irritating. I think they're coming in later on, but I missed that character, and I wanted to see more of that. So a little bit underwhelming, but there's enough there to keep me interested in the second book for sure. I'd say third is probably The Starless Sea up here. I took the dust jacket off because I just think this naked book is like gorgeous. I'm not finished, full disclosure, I'm only halfway through, so I'm about 250 pages in and it's a 500-page book. But so far, the writing is gorgeous. I have no idea what's going on, but the writing is so beautiful. I really like the world, the whole concept of like this library existing underneath the world and all these tunnels, and it's like a kind of realm that doesn't obey the same rules of time and space, and it's very interesting, and there's a lot happening, and there's a lot of beautiful descriptions, a lot of really lovely short kind of vignettes and little fairy tales, and it keeps switching back and forth, which is, I actually really like that. A lot of reviews say that they don't like that and they can't keep track of what's happening, but I think it's not that hard. There's like the main storyline of this guy Zachary, who basically finds a book in a library, and there is a short story in that book of one of his experiences as a child, where he found a magical door, and he thought it might lead to somewhere, but he was too scared to open it. And that's a lovely story, and the book opens with a short story about a pirate, and then a short story about the library, and then a short story about who we then learn as Zachary looking at this door. And so it's very beautiful, and the way that you get little snippets of like little magical folk tales, fairy tales. I really love fairy tales, so maybe that's why I love those sections almost more than the main plot, actually. But I'm intrigued to see how it unfolds, definitely. And yeah, I would recommend it if you're a fan of Strange the Dreamer. It has a very similar lyrical style, although I would say Strange the Dreamer is a little bit more plot driven. Starless Sea is much more kind of vague, and if you're not into that, fair play, don't bother. Number 2 then would be Priory of the Orange Tree, this big chunky boy. I'm actually so proud of myself for finishing that, because that's been on my TBR for so long, and it's always hard to like find the energy, especially in a pandemic, like God, to read a 800-page book. But I enjoyed it. Like, I listened to it as well on audiobook, and then read a bit, and then would listen to it for a bit, so I could kind of break up the like reading chunks. But I really like the world, I really like the characters. It's also a bit gay, so that's nice, although I kind of wanted more from that. There's a relationship between 2 women in it, and I enjoyed what I saw of it, but I just thought it would make up more of the story, more of the plot. I thought it would take up more kind of space in the narrative. The only thing I would say is that I guess I'm not quite sure why it had to be so long, and I know that's like annoying to say because obviously she's put so much effort and time into it, but I feel like the whole book is leading up to this really big conflict at the end, and the conflict is resolved within about 50 pages. So that's a little bit underwhelming. The ending is kind of a little bit underwhelming for me. I wouldn't say it's like my favorite fantasy novel, but it was definitely a world that I enjoyed being in, and I would recommend it if you're a fan of kind of dragon-based fantasy and like female-led narratives, because all of the main characters, I believe, are women. So that was really nice to see. Which means that very predictably, oh god, I'm so predictable. My number one was Chain of Gold by Sandra Bland. I actually give it 4 stars and not 5 just because I enjoyed it a lot, obviously, but it's probably not like my favorite of her books. I think I was absolutely blown away by Lady Midnight when I read that and that whole series. I didn't quite fall in love with all of the characters to the same extent that I did with Lady Midnight, but I just loved Chain of Gold. Like, I loved being in Edwardian London. I loved meeting new shadow hunters and like seeing names that I recognized, although if you saw in my montage, it is like hard to keep track of at first because there are all these names that you recognize and you're like, okay, so that's this person's great uncle, or this person's great aunt, or this person's like granddad. Like, it was very difficult to keep the timelines in where they needed to be. Basically, at first I was very overwhelmed, and then it became easier, obviously, as I read on, to get used to who everyone was and who everyone's related to. But I loved the plot, and then suddenly out of nowhere in Chain of Gold, I'm just sitting there enjoying my Shadowhunters Edwardian London escapism, and then suddenly a deadly virus comes along and they have to go into quarantine. Like, I shit you not, I was reading this in a pandemic, like going, oh, too real. I've said this before, but I'm just like so in love with Cassandra Clare's world building, and every single book, like, the writing gets better, and like, oh, I just love being in that world. I'll always love being in that world, and it's so nice to dip into, especially after you've been gone for a while. So that's it. These are all the books I read in the 2020 coronavirus lockdown. I could have done better. Like, there were lots of weeks where I just didn't read at all, so I definitely could have done more, but you know, it's not too bad. It's like a hefty pile. There's some big books in there, and some really good books as well. If I were to pick like my top 3, I would say Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race. That's a very important book that I'd recommend to everybody. 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and then probably Starless Sea, because it's written beautifully. I'm not going to say Chain of Gold because I'm just going to stop shoving Shadowhunters content down your throat. But yeah, so those are my top 3 of what I'd recommend from my quarantine reading. So as you can see, my TBR is still massive. And I made this like helpful post-it note to help me keep track of what happened. So, pre-lockdown, there were 55 books on my TBR. I read 20 in lockdown, but I acquired 30 from my uni room. And so now, post-lockdown, I have 65 books on my TBR, but that's not including the book haul that I uploaded last week. So I think there's now 71 books on my TBR. So this video has been a failure. Yeah, I tried to make a big dent in my TBR in lockdown. Obviously that has not happened. So despite the very evident failure of what this video set out to do, I enjoyed it. I read some good books. I think 20 books for around 4 months isn't great, but you know what, at least I'm reading. You know, I had 2 months at the start of this year where I read nothing, and 2 months doesn't sound like a long time, but it felt like a long time. It was the most stressful 2 months of my life. It was when my dissertation was due, it was when I was filming my 2 graduation films back to back, and I wasn't reading, and it was just very stressful and very sad. So after that whole experience, I'm just grateful to have read anything, honestly. I'm very behind on my Goodreads goal for the year, but you know what? Maybe I can do another video of like trying to blitz my TBR in 2020. Like, what's it now? 4 months to the end of the year? I can get through that, right? Right? Maybe? No, probably not. But yeah, thank you so much if you made it to the end of this, what is probably going to be a very long video. Thank you for sticking with me, even though I failed you quite catastrophically. But yeah, I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.